Ow! Greetings, programs. This is DecKrash, better known as Brandon, and you're watching another Tron Uprising review. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, this is DecKrash, better known as Brandon. We have another Tron Uprising review for all of you. And, wow, surprise, I am on time this time. The episode aired on November 2nd, which will happen to be my birthday, so it didn't exactly get an episode going at that point. But, anyway, so, we are talking about the second part of Scars. And so, for a two-parter, this was heavily exciting, action-packed, and I do mean action. I mean, you really got a chance to see Tron at work here, not Beck pretending to be Tron, and it was just really incredible. Now, here's a little piece of trivia not so much trivia, but just something I noticed, and really, I guess it was just because I hadn't watched Tron Legacy all the way through in a little while. But the other day I happened to be kicking back and watching Tron Legacy, and, well, I swear that show just keeps getting better and better no matter how many times I see it. But there's the scene where Flynn and his son, escape on board the solar sailor thing across the sea to get to the portal, and Rensler, of course, tails them. And you see that scene where Rensler puts his hand on the ground and the footprints appear. I didn't notice that up until the time I had watched the movie again, and so I was like, oh, okay, so I guess, being programs with certain types of, you would say, system permissions, they probably have these abilities. So, of course, Rensler, if you watch Tron Legacy, he was Tron. So whenever I saw that scene in Scars where Dyson does the same thing with the footprints, I thought it was pretty cool. And I didn't realize, what was going on until I saw that same thing in Tron Legacy. Just thought I'd like to share that with y'all. So, on to the nuts and bolts of everything. Okay, so Scars picks up where the last episode left off with Tron going off to get his revenge on Dyson. And of course there is a bigger reveal of things as it goes along. Well, of course, Beck, even after having Tron take away his, I guess you could say, all the data that gives him all the knowledge and powers of Tron, even after he takes that away, Beck still goes and pursues Tron. And so they have this big light cycle chase in the wastelands outside of Tron's secret headquarters, and Beck is like tailing him, trying to get Tron to stop because he doesn't want Tron to just succumb to this crazy mad-on for revenge. And so you get this really awesome light cycle chase scene. The light cycle chase scenes in this series are really, really cool, and this did not disappoint. I could describe it, but with this one you just got to see it. I mean, it's really cool the way they used the light cycle's abilities, with the jet walls and such, and it shows you just how amazing Tron is, because he tries to pull that blocking maneuver on Tron, and Tron, of course, gets right through it by shutting off his bike, cutting a flip over, then running, and then jumping over the wall and reactivating his bike. And just the whole scene is just really intense. I mean, he does a lot more. I just don't want to spoil all that for you. So, of course, he manages to outmaneuver Beck and damages his light cycle, so he can't pursue. And it cuts, of course, to General Tesla, who's still none too happy that Dyson is still around, and so he's fussing at Mara, excuse me. Sorry, I think I just have something in my throat. and excuse me, he's fussing at Paige and of course Pavel, about why is he still around, and of course when they get into like the, I guess you could say, the general's sitting room, I guess it looks like a throne room. Dyson's sitting there just pretty much listening in on that, and of course before Tesla is able to say anything about the renegade, Dyson appears, and so he's like, Tesla's acting like all happy joy like he did when Dyson first appeared, even though deep down inside he's like, this guy would just go away. And of course Dyson still wants to hang around for a little while because it's obvious that General Tesla doesn't have the situation well in hand. And so he goes on his inspection tour again, this time with Paige at his side. And Paige tries to alleviate his fears, but of course Dyson's just way too smart, and he just like, how long are you going to just keep putting up with this? And they're in, I guess, an engine coolant room of some sort, because the whole engine coolant room starts getting flooded with coolant to the point where the ship that they're in is about to go boom. So the whole deal is that Tesla's base of operations isn't on some sort of land-based base; it's this ginormous ship. So anyway, Mara goes and sees to what's going on. She goes into the control room, and of course Pavel's there, and Pavel tries to do that stupid sniveling little weasel thing about, look, we all know that General Tesla is not handling the situation, and we can get rid of him, and of course and of course Paige is just like, tells him basically to go to hell and wait. So anyway, the whole deal is that Dyson, of course, feels that this is the renegade, and of course it's like, this piddling little renegade who thinks he's Tron. He's going to try to go ahead and get rid of him himself. Well, of course, little does Dyson know that Tron is there, and even though Beck has trailed Tron, there's this one scene where Tron is still, just inside the facility, and Beck is like on one of the Raptors up top, and he's like, well, I guess I gotta congratulate you. You have learned something from me, so you were able to catch up with me, which shows that Beck, I guess, has been trained very well by Tron. Now the whole deal is Beck is still trying to convince Tron not to give in to revenge, and of course Tron ends up locking his arm to one of the railings on the catwalk, and embedding his disc in a far wall, and it's like there's a time release on the handcuffs, and so by the time they release you, Dyson's going to be dead. And then Tron goes down and basically starts opening up a can on Dyson. And I mean big time. It's really pretty cool too, because Dyson's getting his behind handed to him, and first Dyson's kind of getting the upper hand, and then he's like, show yourself. Are you just too much of a coward just to admit you're not Tron? And then when Tron shows his face, oh god, the look on Dyson is priceless. It's one of those things, like I said, like the light cycle scene. I wish I could describe to you, but you just got to see it yourself. Now, the interesting thing is that the whole time when Tron is, of course, on his way to confront Dyson, they play back a couple little flashbacks again. And it continues where the last one left off, where it seemed like Dyson had killed him, but he didn't. He wakes up in this sort of a glass container almost. And all around him are containers with other programs. And in the computer voice from above is like, initiate repurposing program, and they show like all the programs lifting up their arms. Their discs are like above them, and then this like weird energy kind of overcomes them and starts, I guess you could say, rewriting their code. And they all start off like blue, and then they all turn red. Now, if any of you, of course, have seen Tron Legacy, you know that's pretty much what Clue had been doing to programs anyway, was he was repurposing them for his army, and just recreating a legion of loyal programs. It was his idea of perfection, because Flynn had created Clue to create the perfect system. So Clue was going about his idea of what perfection was, especially after becoming disillusioned with Flynn's idea. and his sympathy for the ISOs. But before Tron has a chance to become rewritten, he gets sucked out of the tube and ends up like chained up to this wall thing in a room where Dyson is, and Dyson basically starts torturing him. Now they have this one scene in that particular scene where they have the two Sentinel programs outside of the lab, I guess, or his workshop. They're hearing all the noise of the machines going on, and one of them tells the other is like they always scream. How come this one isn't screaming? And it's like, because he's Tron. The tingle just ran through my spine. I loved it. It's like, because he's Tron. It's like, dang right he's Tron. So the thing is that the reason why Dyson took Tron out of the repurposing area is because he wanted to basically show him, because one of the ISOs supposedly left his face broken, and of course Clue repaired him. He's like, I want you to know what it's like to be imperfect. And he starts going at his face with a little blade thing. The interesting thing is in the previous episode where they had that disc come out of nowhere and damage Dyson's face. I don't know if it was the disc that damaged his face or it was just a fight that damaged his face. I can't remember right offhand. I have to watch the episode again. But his face was damaged in the fight, and I think it was that he had blamed it on the ISOs, and so he kind of took to Clue's vision wholeheartedly. But anyway, so that was the reason why Tron got the scars. I mean, in addition to the horrendous mess that Clue made of his chest, then Dyson just whittling away at his face with that device, and then they show his face missing all the QB parts showing again, and so now you know how he got the scars. And so basically he tells the guard programs to take him back to Clue's ship. I guess he was going to put him in the repurposing program again. So while he sees the recognizer flying off, all of a sudden it starts to explode, and Dyson's like, whoa. It's like, oh well, goodbye, old friend. So this is the whole flashback that's given, and then of course it cuts back to Tron. Now this was like before the fight scene. Now during the fight scene, of course, like I said, Dyson probably liked to pee his pants seeing that it was actually Tron, because Tron starts coming and fighting against him wearing the little face mask. Now the really cool thing is Dyson's weapon. His weapon was like a disc on a yo-yo string. He was like flailing it around like a whip. It was actually pretty awesome, but Tron was able to best him pretty quickly in regards to that. But the fight was still pretty intense. So in the end, what happened is like Tron finally gets the upper hand and is about to basically just do away with Dyson, but then he starts to remember what happened in those few moments. They showed what happened on board the Recognizer. One of the programs that was escorting him basically turned against his fellow programs and rescued Tron, and said, he was like, Tron was like, you work for Clue, and he said, not anymore. And he drags Tron away into the wastelands, and he said, the revolution, we can't let the revolution end before it's even begun. The interesting thing is that that's exactly what Beck was, pleading with to Tron before he went out on his mad rush for vengeance. Well, actually, while they were inside the facility. So that kind of snaps Tron out of it, and he realizes, what he almost did, and his nobler nature finally kicks in, and so he doesn't kill Dyson. Instead, he just tells Dyson straight up, he's like, I only let you live for one reason, to send a message. And then he walks off. And then, of course, Beck, finally having freed himself, is looking on this whole thing, just in total relief. Now, the whole thing is really kind of funny because General Tessler is like happy as a lark, and Paige and Pavel didn't even know that Tessler had left, and I mean, not Tessler, excuse me, Dyson had left, and Tessler's like, he left, all right, shaking like, shaking in his boots. I don't know what you did to him, Paige, but I'm proud of you. that was funny. And then it cuts again to Tron's hideout, where he and Beck are having a talk, and he apologizes to Beck. And what had happened? Oh yeah, and then it cuts to Dyson going back to Clue, and so he tells Clue Tron lives. And Clue's like, okay, and how many others know about this? And there's only like one other guard program in that private chamber. And he looks at the guard program, and the guard program, of course, has just like he has a oh no look, and he just punches him through with his disc, and all that's left is little cubey things. And then Dyson says, no one, and Clue's like, good, keep it that way. And that's how the episode ends. So there you have it. Scars Part 2 was an amazing finish to a very, very informative and eye-opening episode. It doesn't quite talk about how he became Rensler. I'm pretty sure that's going to come further along in the series. Probably a very, very tragic turn of events. I'm guessing, of course, that it's going to have Beck, something's going to happen to Tron, and Beck has to basically lead the resistance, by himself. And that makes me think about something. And it's one of the weaknesses of Tron Legacy, is that they only hint at a resistance that's been going on among the programs. They really should have devoted a little more time to that in the movie to make it a bit more important. But they didn't. I mean, they talked about it. I remember Sam telling his dad. Was it Sam? I know they had spoken of. I know. Oh, I think it was Flynn who had mentioned. Some programs might want to take. There's been talk of rebellion. He might be taken down from the inside. And then they go to the whole deal with the End of Line Club, and of course, the programs wanting to speak to Zeus, and they're talking to Castor, who of course is Zeus. And that's pretty much it. I mean, the big fight in the End of Line Club, you see the programs that are leading the resistance scream out resist, and you have all the other programs start fighting. And of course, you see just those scenes of the other programs, starting to beat down Clue's guards. But unfortunately, they didn't mention it like they should have. And I think the movie might have been a bit better if it had. Not to say the movie was bad at all. I mean, I was tremendously satisfied by Tron Legacy. I'm not a fool. I think it could have been better. Hopefully Disney will rectify that when Tron 3 comes out. But this series is serving well to fill in the gaps and give good life to the whole story of the Resistance. That the movie didn't quite touch on. And so, okay, great reveals in the storyline. You finally see what happened to Tron after the whole deal with him, getting Flynn to safety. You have a great action scenes, both with the light cycle scene and that fight against Dyson. It's just wow, that was intense. So visuals and everything like that worked very, very well to make all those scenes work together. And even though this was probably the least amount of time you saw given to the main antagonists in the show, their time counted, because they're always showing in some way, form, or fashion how Pavel is always trying to make always wanting to make some sort of power play over General Tessler. Like I said in my last video, I mean, he is very much the star screen to General Tessler's Megatron, always plotting to try to overthrow him. Of course, General Tessler, is always one step ahead of him, or doesn't even realize. He's not, as of yet, he doesn't really realize just how treacherous Pavel is. I'm pretty sure that once he finally realizes that there's going to be some problems. So that's how I see it. But anyway, so great characterization, even though the antagonist didn't get much time in there, and you didn't really get to see Beck in action much except for the light cycle scene. But just Tron and Dyson's storyline and the interaction between them made this show. And I was tremendously pleased with the storyline in this one. So I think that on a whole, after watching part 2, I really have to judge Scars by both parts 1 and 2. Altogether, make a solid 10. I really cannot find anything really negative to say about this one. And so there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. That is my review of Scars Part 2. Hope you enjoyed it. As always, comment down below, rate, subscribe. Please, as always, keep it civil. And so until the next time, the next episode of Tron Uprising, this is DecKrash, better known as Brandon. As always, stay lucky and stay blessed. See ya.